assembled, our 5,000 provider attorneys all over 50 states and 4 provinces of Canada, Legal Shield. That's the great equalizer. That's the answer. And what we do is we open the courthouse door. We level the playing field. We balance the scales of justice for everyone here, for all of our members, for all of you. That's what we do. And we give your families sense of security, peace of mind. Sense of security, peace of mind. And as my mother Marge would say, we empower the powerless. We empower the powerless. That's what Legal Shield does. For you, for me, for my family, that's why we're so special. That's why we're so unique. And I feel poetic here for a second. I feel poetic. I feel it coming on. I feel poetic. I can't help it. To see the world in a grain of sand and heaven in a wild flower. To hold infinity in the palm of your hand and eternity in an hour. To hold infinity in the palm of your hand and eternity in an hour. When was the last time you held infinity in the palm of your hand? All right? Maybe when you fell in love. Maybe when your child was born. I'm here today. Hear me now, believe me later. You hold infinity in the palm of your hand with a Legal Shield membership. Okay? That's how I feel about what we do. I'm so proud of what we do. And since I'm being a little bit poetic, I want to say something about my friend Jeff Bell. Our leader, our visionary. I want to call him the Imperial Thunderbolt. That's poetic, Jeff. He is our leader, our visionary. He's our Imperial Thunderbolt. Jeff Bell. Let's give it up for him again. Love that guy. Imperial Thunderbolt. I just made it up. Get ready. I'm going to introduce you to a man right now. I know this sounds silly, but among other things, he's an Elvis impersonator. Okay. All right. Okay. No. I bet. That's the headline. 1.6 million Hoosiers voted for this man for Attorney General of the state of Indiana. Okay, whatever a Hoosier is, 1.6 million Hoosiers. Whatever a Hoosier is, he'll tell you. But he got more. This man I'm going to introduce to you right now, our special guest this morning, got more votes in Indiana for Attorney General than any other elected official has ever gotten or received in Indiana history. Think about that. 1.6 million. More than anybody ever, he made history. He's turned the Indiana law firm of the Attorney General's office into the people's law firm, the best law firm in the state of Indiana. He believes the number one function of government is the protection of its people. You got to protect the people. He's the great protector in Indiana. Met his wife in law school, recently got 5 kids. That's on the personal side, but let me get more personal. He's a thespian. He starred in The King and I as the King of Siam. He's a thespian, so he likes to play in Broadway musicals, that sort of thing. But what people don't know, but I've already told you, he can do a little bit of Elvis. I'm not saying he's going to come out here in a white jumpsuit or anything, but he can do a little bit of Elvis. So I hope he gives you some of that. I don't know if he will or not. I hope he gives you some of that. He's a black belt in Taekwondo. That list goes on and on what this guy's done. But he's the Attorney General of the great state of Indiana. My friend, your friend, our friend, Curtis Hill. Come on down, Curtis.
After that,
well, it's one for money, a two for the show. Well, now go back over, don't you? Step on up and it's now or never. So hold me tight, kiss me, my darling, be mine tonight. Will be too late, it's now or never, my soul won't wait.
Lord, Oppose those who oppose me. Fight those who fight against me. Put on your armor and take up your shield. Prepare for battle. Psalm 35, 1, 2. Take up your shield. These are the words of David, the warrior, God's anointed king. David of the Bible. David's courage in battle was fierce, but his faith in God was unparalleled. David knew that he had an advocate in God who would take up his mighty shield and take on the fight to protect David throughout all of his battles. The shield and the sword are tools of war, but the shield and the sword are also symbols of justice. Justice, that ideal second only to freedom, and upon which our very freedom, our American freedom, is wholly dependent. The opening words of our United States Constitution prove this point. We, the people, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice. But just what is justice? That might seem like a silly question, but it's a question that bears some examination. Traditionally and historically, justice has meant fair play, fairness. You see, in this great nation, which I believe is the greatest nation on earth, we are absolutely free to do whatever it is we want to do, within the confines of our rights interfering with the rights of others. Justice, therefore, is a matter of balance. We can do good things and we can do bad things. Justice is our expectation that if we do good things, there will be good results. And if we do bad things, there will be bad results. This makes logical sense. You get what you deserve. But what happens when someone does something good and they get a bad result? Now, suppose, for example, I hire you to work on my farm from 7 a.m. to 4 p.m., and we agree that I'll pay you $50 for the work. Suppose also that I hire one of your friends to work for only 2 hours, and I agree to pay that person $50 as well. Do you deserve to be paid the same amount as your friend, even though you worked several more hours than your friend did? Or is it fair that I offered you $50 for a certain amount of work and paid you for that work accordingly? Well, for problems like this, we have established a system of justice that addresses our conflicts in our freedoms, to resolve our disputes and to account for our actions. For this system to work correctly, our society has devised a set of rules, or rules of law, that guide our efforts to treat each other with fundamental fairness. It is required that everyone have equal access under the law, or in other words, equal opportunity to bring an action or defend an action in an impartial forum or court. But despite the fact that we have been on this quest for a more perfect union, our system of justice has not always worked perfectly. In fact, our nation has a rather checkered history that has not always lived up to our ideals. It's important that we acknowledge our faults and continue to work toward a justice system that is true and fair. I've spent most of my career as a prosecuting attorney pursuing justice, but my earliest sense of justice came from my father. Growing up, I was fortunate enough to have a father who taught me the value of hard work. In fact, my father was my hero. And I really wonder what our nation would be like if every little boy in this world could say, "My father is my hero." Over the years, my father held multiple jobs. He worked as a barber, as a mailman, and ultimately as an insurance agent. He did it all to put bread on our table for my mom and my brothers and sisters, and to provide us kids with opportunities in life that he himself never had. It is because of my dad that I had the opportunity to go to law school, to practice as a lawyer, to win election 4 times as my county prosecutor, and most recently, to win election to become Indiana Attorney General. All the while, my father worked to enable us to get ahead in life. He did something else. He served as an active member and as president of the local chapter of the NAACP. He did this for his family. He did this for his community, not in pursuit of a paycheck, but this time rather in pursuit of justice. My father was that one man in my life that I didn't want to disappoint. And that is such an important factor when we look at justice and how our system operates. In fact, I have 5 numbers that I want to share with you that illustrate that point. These numbers are 13, 35, 50, 90, and 72. 13% of the American population is black. 35%, almost 3 times, 35% of the prison population is black. 50% of the homicide victims in this country are black. And 90% of those who killed those very people are black. These are devastating statistics, and they're disproportionate. But the last number tells the whole story. 72. 72% of black children born today do not have a father in the home. That's compared to 29% in white America. While that's bad enough, while 29% is bad enough, almost 3 out of 4 black children have no fathers in the home. So when we look at a disproportionate number of blacks in prison, and we look at the number of disproportionate children that have no fathers in home, is there a correlation? We in the justice system have to work on not only the front end of justice in terms of who goes in and how they come out, but even before we move to the justice system, what are we doing to condition our communities to make sure that we improve the lives of everyone? So our topic today is truth, justice, and the American rule of law. But in many ways, it seems like it might be more accurate to say truth, justice, and a world gone mad. We're not the same system that we once were. The rule of law seems to be blasé in many communities. Whatever happened to the basic concept of innocent until proven guilty? You remember that? Accusations have become the final determination of guilt rather than finding out what goes on in a courtroom. Facing your accuser in a court of law has been replaced with anonymous social media determinations of the court of public opinion. Due process, which is really a fancy word of saying fairness, has become secondary to the rush to judgment. Decisions on who gets charged and who does not require sober deliberation without regard to outcome, but within the meaning of that which is right. And I've often told a story of when I was a prosecuting attorney that we had a truck accident on the toll road near my house. A big rig had crushed 3 or 4 cars, killing 8 people instantly. And immediately upon the collision, people were coming to my office and demanding that I charge these people and make sure that we get our pound of flesh. Well, I had to tell them, we need to review the evidence first because that's what we do. We don't look at a horrific situation and then simply charge. We look at all situations in fairness and determine if there's a violation of law. In this particular case, I decided not to charge the driver. It was met with all sorts of, well, you can imagine what it was met with. But my rationale was this. In looking at the case, we found that the truck driver was not speeding. We found that the truck driver's logs were in good shape. We did a blood test on the truck driver, no alcohol or drugs in his system. So what had happened to cause this collision? It was about 5 a.m. in the morning, it was still sort of dark, and what the truck driver didn't know was up a couple miles ahead, a vehicle had earlier gone off the road. The state police had come along and stopped traffic with a tow truck to pull that vehicle out of the ditch and back onto the road. When it started to stop traffic, the traffic started to back up. And as the traffic backed up, it got to a critical point where the trucker who was driving along, and I want to ask you if this sounds familiar, glanced away momentarily to put the charge in his phone. Anybody here ever do that? Anybody here ever do that? So we looked at that as a negligent act, but not as a criminal act. And that was a hard thing for a lot of people to determine because, man, we just wanted to get it. We needed to have justice, and for most people, justice was somebody had to pay criminally. Well, fairness says that's not the case. I wonder if the next generation of prosecutors will be able to make those types of decisions, or will those decisions be born of political correctness? Which I can tell you, ladies and gentlemen, political correctness is the enemy of justice. We live in a world today where public opinion rules. If you agree with a decision, then it's correct. If you don't, then it's not. Never mind what the evidence is. You know, this recent investigation by Mueller is a perfect example. Most people who like the president think that decision was a good one. Most people who don't like the president think the decision was not fair. Has very little to do with what the actual decision is or an objective reality. Now, had the president been indicted, the people who like the president would have thought the decision was unfair. And the people who dislike the president would have believed the decision was just and responsible. Again, without even knowing what the decision was based on. Objectivity has given way to preference of outcome. And that's a dangerous, dangerous thing. So many people just want to throw dirt. Just throw dirt. In fact, throwing dirt reminds me of a story. There was a farmer who had a mule. And he couldn't get this mule to follow any instructions. He wanted the mule to go right, the mule wouldn't go right. He wanted the mule to go left, the mule wouldn't go left. So he got fed up with his mule and decided he was going to get rid of it. So he dug a big hole on his farm, and he tossed the mule in the hole. And then he got into his backhoe, and he started to throw dirt in the hole. Well, the mule was in the hole and getting the dirt, and the mule would shake the dirt off, pat the dirt down. The farmer put the backhoe, dumped more dirt, the mule would shake the dirt off, pat it down. Well, pretty soon there was so much dirt in there that the mule had packed down, the mule was able to hop up, jump out of the hole, and run away. Never to be seen again. Which goes to show that when you go around throwing too much dirt, you just might lose your ass. But we have good news. We have some good news for you, ladies and gentlemen. The premise on which Legal Shield was founded, this mission of making legal services more broadly affordable to the general population, can help move us back to a more perfect union. We here still believe in equal rights, isn't that correct? We here still believe in equal justice, isn't that right? But let's face it, the guy who can afford an expensive lawyer sometimes has a leg up on the legal system over the guy who just can't. That's a practical reality. So when we all work to find ways to make quality legal services affordable to the average person, we're contributing to the cause of equal justice under the law. We are, in fact, helping to build that more perfect union. Here in America, our founders gave us a justice system based on fundamental fairness, and ladies and gentlemen, it's our job to keep it that way. John Adams said, "Let justice be done, though the heavens should fall." And every single person here today has a role to fulfill in upholding justice and promoting equal opportunity for all. Those are some pretty important tasks. And we really do have roles to play in promoting the virtues that have made America as great as it is. In your case, there's a direct connection to your work as entrepreneurs affiliated with Legal Shield. By linking people to the essential legal services, you are restoring the importance of the rule of law. So make it your mission to do your work with distinction. In promoting the value of legal representation, you're really helping to provide other people the wherewithal to make sound decisions. Lawyers are all well trained in the area of critical thinking, which is so important. So often someone without representation, someone without a well-trained advocate looking out for their interests, will blindly trust the advice and counsel of someone who may not, in fact, have that person's own best interest in heart. We've all learned that it can be a cruel, cruel world out there, and we all need to navigate life in a smart and strategic manner. Having legal representation is a part of that process. So I just want to encourage you, as you go forward, to go forward with confidence in your mission. It's something to feel good about. Whenever we get 100% of whatever we're doing, we are quite amazed at just how far that kind of thing will go. George Washington said, "The best and only safe road to honor, glory, and true dignity is justice." So ladies and gentlemen, take up the fight. Take up the shield. Protect our rule of law as if your very life depends on it. Because guess what? It does. And before I go, let me say this.
Wise men say, only fools rush in. But I can't help falling